What's up guys, Phoenix here. This video is going to be another DevPro Duel video, and this time it is going to be with some more Mermail games. Specifically, we're going to be playing against Kozmo today because I just wanted to play that matchup. Now, the build you see on screen is my own personal build as of right now. This is the build that I am playing. Double Undyne, double controller, double allure is like one of my favorite things in the world. I'm trying to find a way to bump Undyne up to 3 without cutting any of the cards that are like in my spell and trap lineup. Maybe the Upstart could get cut because it does only give a 1% consistency boost, literally like a solid straight 1%. And I would really like to put the third Undyne back in, but I had to fit in the third Max C. Now these could possibly move to the side, but they are like one of the best cards in the main deck. Honestly, I'm contemplating like cutting one of the marksmans and putting that in the sideboard, or maybe just cutting out lead and putting it in the sideboard, because these cards, like, they're not very impactful in the current game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because like there's not very many set cards floating around, so marksman could easily be a one of. But also, like, lead is only good if your opponent is actually forcing you to go first, in which case you're trying to do some form of hand loop. But even then, like, most of the time you like just go first, you are able to like shotgun Dweller and not able to do any sort of hand loop. But if you're able to Dweller and take 2 out of their hand with Mooling Glacier, it's pretty much good against everything in the format as well. But I want to try and fit in a third Undyne back in because I was playing 3 Undyne in the last video, and since then I've just been tweaking the deck around and making some changes. But as far as Mermails go, its Kozmo matchup is not the greatest with the addition of Dark Lady. It's very much like the worst time to play Mermails in Yu-Gi-Oh! Since like Breakers of Shadows has been released, since we got Prince. Like, the deck is actually just getting weaker and weaker. Now it's very sad because this is definitely one of those decks that has a very, very high output ceiling, but just the things in the format right now are just perfectly tailored against it. Like Stormforth in either, and Karaz in the Monarch matchup, and then you have Majesty's Fiend there as well, and then in the Mermail matchup you have Dark Destroyer and Dark Lady, which just make it to where like these are just they're multitudes of problems, essentially. So I don't think now is the right time to play Mermails. I think I think this deck will always be a contender, and I think it will be better in the future than it is now, because something has to happen to those decks eventually, and if those get replaced by decks that don't have those same inherent strengths as those decks currently have against the Mermail deck, then the Mermail deck will just be very good in the format. Like, it'll continue to do what it's done beforehand. But other than that, like, that's pretty much all I wanted to do to talk about this deck, because I mean, I've already discussed this deck at length multiple times, so I just wanted to discuss the possible changes and discuss like its place in the format. But other than that, that is going to be it for this little discussion segment of this video, and let's just hop straight into the first game. Alright, first game, and I'm playing against my friend, 1, because he makes it very convenient to record against, and 2, because I know that he's not overly familiar with the Kozmo deck, but he does actively play Mermail with me on a weekly basis. I know he's very, very familiar with the Mermail deck, and thus knows exactly how he should be playing against it. So even though he doesn't know all the intricacies of the Kozmo deck, he does know enough to make some decent plays, maybe not the best ones, but he does know how he should be approaching the matchup, and that is what I really want for this video. But anyway, he makes me go first because he wins rock, paper, scissors, and he knows I'm playing Mermails, and so I just set heavy infantry and pat. I'm just like, I'm not doing anything with this hand. This hand is garba-hay for going first. It's definitely not even, I can't even take 2 cards out of his hand. Or maybe I can, but like it would be the most inefficient thing in the world. So, wouldn't even be able to put Dweller up, like things like that. But so he opens with Terraforming, goes Terraforming for Fire King Island, pops Delta Shuttle out of his hand, gets Strawman, pays 500 to bring back his Delta Shuttle, and I checked his hand in a replay after this, and at the point that he E-tellies, the rest of his hand is Tin Can, the Big Runix, Forerunner, and Max C, so he doesn't have any single way to turn off that Fire King Island and extend his combo plays, because I thought this was very strange at first glance, but I saved the replay and looked at it later. So yeah, his hand literally didn't have anything else to go with this combo, in the form of like Cosmo Town or Slip Rider or anything like that. So honestly, I think he's playing it out actually decently well, considering the fact that his hand doesn't have a lot. Now, he could have gone for like Slip Rider instead of Dark Destroyer, and popped like Fire King Island, but he's going for more damage. He knows he has to rush me down because I am playing Mermail, and he knows he has to put up a big like threat that I can't really deal with efficiently in the form of Dark Destroyer, before like anything else can potentially happen for him to actually be in a winning position in the game, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. But so he gets Dark Destroyer off his Farm Girl after poking me. He pops his Delta Shuttle and he gets a Tin Can, which is actually really good, and then uses Tin Can in the end phase to reveal some cards and add 1. And I believe I gave him a Slip Rider. I think he revealed Dark Lady, Slip Rider, Dark Destroyer, and I gave him the Slip Rider. And so for my turn, I draw Abyss Pike, And so I normal summon Neptibus. I'm like, if he has another Dart Destroyer in his hand, then I'm going to get dicked over. I'm literally going to lose this game out of sheer principle. But he doesn't, so I get to resolve the Neptibus, sending Dragoons, adding Dragoons, and then Dragoons gets to trigger, letting me search for a Megalo, so I can actually start trying to make some plays. Now, at this point, that Fire King Island has the biggest target on its head I ever did see. I literally get to blow up his board, and so he just activates Max C here, which doesn't matter. I'm going to keep going for the play. Going to keep going for the play regardless of whether or not he Max C's me or not, because that's kind of how this deck has to function, which is another thing that kind of makes it 1 strong and 2 weak. Like, going into a deck like Kozmo against like a Max C is very, very problematic. So anyway, I dropped my Megalo, ditching Marksman and Heavy Infantry, or no, I ditched Dragoons and Heavy Infantry, sorry, and Heavy Infantry is just going to pop that Fire King Island, and he knows this. So, I target the Fire King Island, and he chains the Tin Can, summoning Forerunner. That way when Fire King Island does trigger, he gets to float into 2 more pilots. Very, very actually, good. It makes the Fire King Island literally matter a little bit less. And so he floats into a Dark Lady, and I don't know why he didn't float with Forerunner, or he didn't float with Dart Destroyer. I think he might have just misclicked or something. But he summons Dark Lady, and then I reveal the Megalo, ditching 2 more, and he just negates it with Dark Lady. Yeah, that's fine. And so I use Megalo on my field to tribute the Neptibus, and I bring back Marksman off of Neptibus' effect. Equip the equip spell to Megalo. I literally just wanted to make him have lower life, so that I could just attack him with the Megalo, attack him with the Marksman, get a Neptibus out of the deck, because that's more damage than just getting Dragoons back, and then attack him directly with Megalo. Now, if he had floated with the Dart Destroyer down into an appropriate pilot, then I would have, likely not had game, potentially. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what the life totals were for this, but I know he was, out of ships in his hand unless he drew more off Max C, which I didn't check that far into the replay. If he did draw more off Max C that were summonable, they would have been something like Slip Rider or Delta Shuttle, and in which case I could have still potentially beat over those per game anyway, because I can't remember exactly what the life was. But anyway, he knows what he has to do. He has to put Dark Lady. It seems to be the most efficient way to deal with this. But next game, I win rock paper scissors, and I tell him to go first. And so he activates Fire King Island, destroys Dart Destroyer out of his hand, summons Straw Man. And I don't activate Max C during all of this, because the correct time to activate Max C is when they activate their Straw Man effect to bring back something, because that's going to guarantee you get a 2-for-1. If you do Max C on Fire King Island, they're just going to go straight into Tin Can turn. If you Max C on the Straw Man, it's going to do the exact same thing where it puts them into Tin Can and makes them pass their turn, but you draw 2 cards instead of 1. So they have 2 pilots, but you have 2 extra cards, so it actually gets you further as well. It puts you in the same game state, it just makes it a little bit more complex, but it gives you more cards to deal with their complex game state. But I draw the Mizuchi, and I was like, oh, great. So I basically just didn't, next level with Max C for anything, because I literally drew a blank. What a masterful duelist I am, aren't we, right? Duelists, yes. But, so, in phase, he reveals off Tin Can. He reveals, I think, Dart Destroyer or Dark Lady Forerunner. I think I gave him the Dart Destroyer, and I was like, oh my god. That is the worst. So I summon Megalo. First things first, reveal Megalo. And I use Marksman to target his set card, and then I use Heavy Infantry to target his Tin Can. And I use Heavy Infantry to target his Fire King Island. That's still up, so it actually deals with his entire board. That is correct. So he tags out into Dart Destroyer. Dart Destroyer target my Megalo. He tags out into Dart Destroyer and Slip Rider. Dart Destroyer's effect destroys my Megalo, and then both his Dart Destroyer and his Slip Rider both float down. So he floats into another Tin Can and a Dark Lady. And at this point, I can normal summon the Neptibus, but there's a Dark Lady on the field. That Dark Lady is going to be negating my life away. I went from being in something that I thought was really strong, but I mean, it's just not. It's not really strong. He's not making really amazing plays if he does have the combo cards in his hand for them, but I mean, I did just Max C him. But as well as that, he's making very, very decent plays and knowing exactly what cards to actually hit. And so I just decided I just have to search off those Dragoons, and I have to just try and allure into one of those 2 controllers and another water monster. If that Mizuchi was another water monster, I could have searched another Megalo and actually still had a play, because I could have then ditched Dragoons and I could have potentially had like Moulins or something like that, but no, it was the Mizuchi. So I got kind of dicked over by RN Jesus over here. But next game, I think I win rock, paper, scissors again, and I tell him to go first. And my hand is Neptibus, Teus, Instant Fusion, and Forbidden Chalice, which Chalice is good because Chalice gets to negate the Dark Lady. Chalice and Kaijus are great against Dark Lady, so it's actually just wonderful. But his hand, he actually kind of bricked. He has a lot of things that are going for him, and he accidentally set the emergency teleport. So that's that. He accidentally set it instead of activating it, and that's one of the reasons why I hate DevPro for this sort of thing. Is that if you click the wrong button, you're screwed. At least on DN, you can be like, yo, I did not mean to set this. Or you can just be like, misclick, and most people let you like correct it, because I mean, you're not going to accidentally click the wrong button in real life. So anyway, my hand has Teus in it, so I just use Neptibus to send heavy infantry and add a Dragoons to my hand and attempt to pop the tin can to force the tag out at this point. And so because I got the Teus that can trigger the Dragoons in my hand anyway, and so he uses Tin Can's effect, chains out into Dark Lady, and I get to summon Abyss Teus. So at this point, the hand situation for me is looking really good. If he had actually like resolved that E-Tele first turn, and been able to put a body on board, it would have definitely changed a lot of different things. But as long as it wasn't, well, even if it was Dark Destroyer, he would have just been able to float down to Dark Lady, but I had the Chalice for it anyway. So I don't think E-Teleing there would have actually, like, in the proper time in the end phase of his turn, would have made that huge of a difference, because my hand is actually just very, very stacked. My hand is very, very good with all of these different cards. But Dark Lady and Maxi are both active on his side of the board. I've got the Chalice for the Dark Lady, and I'm trying to get him to activate Dark Lady as early as possible with the Instant Fusion, because then if I Chalice the Dark Lady, at this point he only has 3 cards in hand, and if none of them are pilot or ships that he can tag into, then the Dark Lady is going to be permanently negated, and then it cannot tag itself out later in the turn if he draws something like Dark Destroyer or something like that, because its effect, it permanent. The Chalice will follow it after it resolves on it. It's just like Valor on field activated effects. Like, it's literally the exact same card. So Chalice would just like be great. So I decided to go into a 101 because I'm like, this would put me into a good Moulin range in terms of like having the proper number of cards in grave. So I had like 1 water in the grave at that time, and I was like, I can just attach 2 off the Silent Honor, suck up his Dark Lady because it was special summon, and then tribute for Megalo to summon, and then that puts me at 5 with a Dragoon Search. So I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. But it ends up not working out in my favor because he strikes my Silent Honor Arc summon. So that puts me at like 1-2 mini waters until I correct it with ditching the second Neptibus out of my hand to special summon Dragoons from grave. Instead of tributing the Neptibus off field, I use the one in my hand. And so I get to summon Moulinglace, and then I get to tribute the Neptibus that's on the board for no effect because I've already used it. Use Megalo, get 2 attacks, and I just get to attack with everything for game under this Max C. Like I said, I don't think, even if he hadn't misclicked and set the E-Tele, I don't think it would have made a huge difference because it's emergency teleport. So if it gives him anything like Forerunner or Dark Destroyer, he has to tag it out right then and there because he's going to lose the tin can, and thus he's going to want to float down into Dark Lady, in which case I do have the negation for it anyway. So there is that. Now, if he had gotten Dark Destroyer and he was able to like summon Dark Lady first, I probably would have just chaliced it. It would have forced the tag out into Dark Destroyer, and then I would have been able to play my entire turn out that way as well. So like it made up multiple little differences, but it would have still been in my favor because I could have just used my cards to make his board whatever I wanted it to be. I could have just immediately chaliced the Dark Lady, and that forces him to go Dark Destroyer into my empty board, and thus we're good. But next game, I win rock paper scissors again, so I tell him to go first again. I want to go second. Like it's pretty standard, right? But he summons a Straw Man off of the Fire King Island and Dark Destroyer play. Or no, Tin Can. He goes straight for Tin Can. That is right. And then he goes Tin Can, tag out into Straw Man because he had a Straw Man in his hand. So he's just trying to get like potential bricks out of his deck. He's trying to thin his deck down into more of the actual cards he wants to draw into, which is likely the other field spells and stuff like that. Because he had Straw Man in his hand, he could have just normal summoned it, but it like, I don't know. It probably was just better to normal summon the Straw Man. But honestly, I think it's fine at this point because he's able to end with a Tin Can Search regardless. If he had normal summoned the Straw Man, it would be in attack mode, and that would be like pretty large, but he would be able to resolve 2 Tin Can Searches in the end phase because he would be able to have the Tin Can that came out off the Fire King Island, and then you'd have the Tin Can that comes out off the Dark Destroyer, because I know he plays multiple. I know he plays at least 2. So he would have 2 tin can searches, which would be potentially good, potentially really good actually. But so he, I think I gave him Dark Lady off of the tin can search, and I normal summon my Neptibus, and I activate Neptibus to send Dragoons, and I get to add a card. So I think I just add another Dragoons, but at this point it doesn't actually matter what play he made during his turn, because he knows how to play against Mermail in this state. And so he just does not let my Dragoons resolve. He doesn't negate the Neptibus, he negates the Dragoons, which is very smart and is the right play, because at that point it makes it to where I have to have a big Mermail in my hand, which is very likely to not be because there's very few of them in the deck. And so thus, I literally just have to end my turn because he negated the Dragoons. See how this works? Like, Dark Lady is absolutely just the biggest problem. It's actually so big of a problem, but it's just something that, it gets irritating at times. But anyway, so he activates Kozmo Town over his Fire King Island, and that destroys his Dark Lady, which he lets hit the grave because that means it can be revived off like a Sword Trooper or something. He uses Kozmo Town to add back his Strawman, and then normal summon it, and then use Strawman to bring back Dark Destroyer. And then, here's the part where I get really confused, because I'm just like, he's next leveling the shit out of me. The set card was an E-Telly, and so he was literally just holding the E-Telly, and he set it to look like a threat, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, you're actually starting to be really, you're actually doing some really, like, cheeky-ass plays, because I could have easily marksmaned that, but he was just confident in the fact that I was going to just, like, lose to Dark Lady. It's like, wow, like, I'm getting next leveled like crazy over here. But anyway, so he E-Tellies into a Sword Trooper, and he just attacks because he brings back a Dark Lady. So he's got, you know, Dark Destroyer, Dark Lady, Strawman, Sword Trooper. He doesn't have another big ship in his hand. At least I don't think so. Does he play another tin can? I can't remember if he plays 3. If he plays 3, then he's like Jesus. Because the Dark Destroyer gets to float into one, and then the E-Telly will resolve, banishing the Sword Trooper. I can't remember exactly how this game went, because this one was filmed like a little while ago. So yeah, he just goes into Slip Rider, and then Slip Rider target Kozmo Town, because I remember this. Yeah, he Slip Riders the Kozmo Town away, because at this point it gives him a guaranteed Dark Destroyer, and he lets the Sword Trooper get banished because he still has the Strawman on board. He doesn't care about it because he doesn't want to immediately drop the Dark Destroyer. He wants to use that as a reactive card. I remember this. I remember asking him about that after the game. But anyway, I draw a Max C a turn late. I'm just like, great, Max C, Maximum C. And so I have Neptibus, and I have Pike, and I have all these cards. So I use Pike to search for Undyne. If I had another normal summon, I could be able to normal summon Pike and send some things. But going with the usual trend, he knows exactly which card he needs to stop, and so he uses Dark Lady to negate the Dragoons. And at this point, I still have no big Mermails in my hand, so at this point in time, I just have to attack over Strawman, which I know he has a Dark Destroyer in his hand. He tags out the Strawman, and I just don't even click yes to activate Max C. It doesn't even actually matter. I'm literally just going to try and allure away my hand. I ended up checking the replay, and like the Genetics controller was like 7 cards down, so even if I had Max C'd, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. I just decided to go out on my own terms and just discard my entire hand off of that Allure of Darkness. So, not really looking too good for the Allure argument, but with the triple Undyne, I think it came up a lot more, because it does increase your percentage of opening it like 8% of opening Undyne, and like that's actually just really good. So I do want to fit the third Undyne in, as I've already said in the discussion part of the first like area of the video. But other than that, like, yeah, he may not be the best Kozmo player in the world, and he may not have made the optimal plays for any specific situation, but I wanted him to play that deck because I knew that he would be okay with it and not the best. But also, he knows Mermail so very well. It's his main deck like it is mine. Like, me and him are the 2 people in our locals that, like, are playing that deck literally, like, every single week. Like, it's very, very much something that I knew he would know exactly which card he needs to destroy, like, to negate with Dark Lady, what he needs to do to play around these cards, and, like, potentially stop my plays at any given point and time because, like, of, like, context clues of what I'm doing with my own cards. Because, like, Jesus, man. The Dark Lady on the Dragoons thing was just, like, insane. Like, I was expecting him to negate the Neptibus. No, man, he got the Dragoons. He was like, no Mega Low for you. But anyway, that is all for this video. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to all the nonsense that you usually do. If you have a deck you want to suggest for me to play for this sort of video style, then send it to my Facebook fan page. The link for that is in the description. Other than that, if you want to support me and keep me making these videos, clicking ads on my videos and disabling ad block when you view my videos is more than sufficient. It's the best way to support me. Helps me make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that. and it just helps keep me motivated to make more of this content, because it helps allowing me to justify more and more time to do this sort of content, because, you know, money is a huge driving force. If you have an ad block enabled and you want to support me, disable your ad block for a few seconds, refresh the video, click an ad or two, and then put it back on when you're done. It takes seconds out of your day, and it honestly just helps me out more than I can express, and it would be greatly appreciated if that is something you could take time out of your day to do, and it would just ensure the indefinite future of my channel if it's something you like to watch. So there's that. But other than that, as always, guys, thanks for watching, and as always, guys, take care.